It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief. It was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope. It was the winter of despair. We had everything before us. We had nothing before us. We were all going direct to heaven. We were all going direct to the other way. In short, the period was so far like the present period that some of its noisiest authorities insisted on its being received, for good or for evil, in the superlative degree of comparison only. Although it may be tricky to place these lines exactly, they are indeed very familiar, and their creator, the great writer Charles Dickens, is even more well known than the prolific words that were his legacy to past, present, and future generations. Many writers have taken on the role of social commentator down through the ages, but few have been responsible for instigating the degree of social change Charles Dickens managed to achieve. From the plight of the workhouse-born Oliver Twist to the impecunious Mr. Micawber, Dickens presented his readers with a glimpse into the darker side of Victorian life, which ran parallel with the era's sentimentality, and the great and the good of the age were forced to consider the plight of the poor. But first and foremost, Charles Dickens was a great storyteller, probably one of the very best the world has ever known, and more fascinating still than his repertoire of novels and his extensive cast of colourful characters is the author's own life, proving beyond all reasonable doubt that fact is invariably stranger than fiction. So as we begin our journey back in time to enter the intriguing world of Charles Dickens, the relevance of our opening lines will become ever more relevant, reflecting the author's all-seeing eye and his unique portrayal of the human condition. And whether you'd like to read on, or need to know which novel these familiar words open at the next pub quiz, the answer is A Tale of Two Cities, Charles Dickens's moving account of the horrors and heroes of the French Revolution. However, our tale of Charles Dickens begins far, far from the dramatically dashing and romantic streets of Paris, and the first port of call has to the very aptly named Portsmouth on England's south coast. Here, in very modest surroundings, Charles John Huffam Dickens came into the world on the 7th of February 1812, a Friday, and whether the circumstances were completely as he described when he opened his most autobiographical novel, David Copperfield, we can only hazard a well-informed guess. To begin my life...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?